This is 16.5 elapsed time. So this is a more challenging lesson. So we are spreading this out over 4 days, okay? So take your time, follow the little tricks that I'm going to show you because they're going to be really helpful in order to keep your information organized and get to the correct final answer. So before we start, we're going to look at the workbook pages from yesterday. So what they have you doing is subtracting, but you need to regroup. So they have these written across. My thing yesterday was to write them up and down so that way they're like a traditional subtraction problem in order to help you keep track of everything, because it gets a little confusing when you're writing it across this way. Over here we're going to solve it and then we'll fill it in there. So greatest value of time is on top and then the smaller value is on the bottom. So we can't take 50 minutes from 20 minutes, so we need to regroup, which is what they are doing right here. So they are taking an hour and then they add 60 to the 20, which is already there, which is how this 80 comes about. So now we'll have 80 minutes. So what they want you to be doing is showing 1 hour, 80 minutes minus what was still there, 1 hour, 50 minutes, and then just subtract to get a final answer of 30 minutes. Now, for number 5, and it's totally fine for you to be doing this off to the side if you're getting stuck on different things. So that's totally fine. So we're gonna use the number bonds though over here the way they have set it up so you can see. So you're taking an hour away, you'll be left with 4 hours because we have 5. And then we have 15 minutes, but we need to add 60 to that. So now we will have 75 minutes. Okay, so then we're going to take our 4 hours and 75 minutes and subtract it from 2 hours, 25 minutes. Okay, so we'll subtract our minutes to be left with 50. And then we'll subtract our hours. 4 hours minus 2 hours gives us 2 hours. So number 6, again, we're going to regroup. We're going to take away an hour. We will have 5, and then that means we need to add 60 minutes to what's there. There's 10 minutes there, so we will have a total of 70 minutes. So we are going to do 5 hours, 70 minutes, minus 1 hour, and 55 minutes. So now we're going to subtract our minutes. 70 minutes minus 55 gives us 15 minutes. And then minus our hours, 5 minus 1 gives us 4 hours, 15 minutes. Number 7, again, we're going to regroup, take an hour away, we'll be left with 8. And then we need to add 60 to the minutes that are already there. So we have 40 plus 60 will give us 100 minutes. So 8 hours and 100 minutes. We will subtract from what was there, 4 hours and 45 minutes. So then we're going to subtract our minutes. 100 minutes minus 45 minutes gives us 55. And then 8 minus 4 to be left with 4 hours and 55 minutes. Now for this one, Rita takes 3 hours 5 minutes to sew a dress. Tara takes 2 hours 40 minutes to sew a similar dress. How much longer does Rita take to sew the dress than Tara? So again, you have to look at total amounts of time. So you should see right away that 3 hours and 5 minutes is the greater total amount of time than 2 hours and 40 minutes. So that's going to go on top even though you can't subtract right away. We're going to regroup. So we'll be left with 2 hours. We need to add 60 to what is there. There's 5. So we will now have 65 minutes. And then we will be able to subtract. So we're going to do 65 minus 40 to be left with 25 minutes. And then 2 hours minus 2 hours gives us 0. So your final answer should just be 25 minutes. All right, so moving on to elapsed time. So biggest thing that we need to focus on in this lesson is how to draw a timeline, and I will show you how to do that. So elapsed time is how much time has passed. So let's take a look at the introduction. Tom's soccer practice started at 3 p.m. It ended at 5 p.m. How long was his soccer practice? This one's pretty simple because there's no minutes involved here. We're just jumping hours. So here's the first timeline we'll look at. So here's our start time, here's our end time, and then we're thinking about how many jumps of time there are to get a total amount of time that has passed. So there is a total of 2 hours that have passed. So again, elapsed time is the amount of time that has passed between the start and the end of an activity. So let's take a look at another one. So Anita started her dinner at 6:45 p.m. She finished at 7:20 p.m. How long did her dinner last? So when you're doing a timeline, you always need to start with your start time. That's going to go right here. Okay, so first thing is always your start time on your timeline. And then the last thing on your timeline for this will be your end time. And then you are going to make jumps throughout. So the first jump you will always do is to your next solid hour of time. So the next hour after 6:45 is 7 p.m. Now the reason that we're going to do this is if you jump further than that, the time can get confusing. So you're always going to make your first jump to that first solid hour after your start time. Even if it's 6:57, you're still going to do that jump to the next solid hour to make sure everything is organized and you have all your information to add up to get the total amount of time passed. Now, we're starting small, so then this one we want to look at, now we're going to look at our end time. So our end time is 7:20. So if we think back to what the hour is that we're working with 7, and that was our last jump. So we can just finish that jump off, and then we would add how much time has passed. We have 15 minutes and 20 minutes. So that's where they're showing it being added to get a total of 35 minutes. So if you're feeling confused, it's totally fine. We're going to be doing some more practice here. So what time is after 7 p.m.? 3 hours after 7 p.m. So our start time is 7. And we're going to do an hour at a time. Now for this one we don't have an end time, so we're going to leave the end time blank right now. But we're going to jump 1 hour, which brings us to 8. We'll jump another hour, which now means we've gone a total of 2 hours, brings us to 9. And then your final jump, because it's only 3 hours. Oops, sorry. To then get an end time of 10. Now we want to think about AM and PM. So we started at PM, which means we haven't passed a 12 o'clock, so it's still going to be PM. So our final time is 10 PM. All right, let's look at the next one. What time is 2 hours after 7:15? Now, if you're looking at this, which I'm sure a lot of you are right now, you can think, I know it's 2 hours after that. And that's totally fine right now that we're able to do it in our head. But as we get further, you're going to have to use these timelines because there's going to be a significant amount of time passing and we need to keep it organized. So we're going to be doing timelines right now just to get comfortable doing them, and then you will see why you need it as we move forward. So we'll jump 1 hour, brings us to 8:15. And then we'll jump 1 more hour because it's a total of 2 hours to 9:15. And again, we haven't passed 12 o'clock at all, so it's still PM. So 9:15 PM is your final answer for this one. All right, how many hours are there from 9 to noon? Now, this one gives us a start and end time. So when you're given a start and an end time, you're going to plug those in right away on your timeline. And we're going to jump 1 hour at a time. So here's 1 hour, which would bring us to 10. Another hour, which brings us to 11. And then you want to keep an eye once you start getting close to your end time. Here's our end time, 12. So that means we only need to do 1 more hour jump. And then what you have to look at is how much time has passed. 1 hour, 2 hours, 3 hours to get a final answer of 3 hours. Now please keep in mind whether they're asking for a time like these two, or they're asking how much time has passed, which is like hours or minutes. So there is a difference if they are asking us what time or how many hours, and make sure you are paying attention to that. All right, so let's continue. How many hours are there from 2:30 to 4:30? Now again, no minutes are changing here, so we're starting simple, but I still need you to be following the way that I'm showing you to do this, so that way we have it down before we get to the more difficult stuff. Now again, this is asking us how many hours, so our answer should not be a time, it should be how many hours have passed. All right, so this means we have a start and we have an end time. Our start time is 2:30. Our end time is 4:30. So what we will do now, typically when we get to stuff, we're going to be getting to the next step, we're going to be going to the next solid hour. So the next solid hour after 2:30 would be 3 o'clock. But since our minutes are not changing, we're not going to do it that way. We're just going to skip by hours. So we're going to skip 1 hour, and that will bring us to 3:30. And then we'll skip 1 more hour to get to our end time. So then we have to look at how much time has passed. 1 hour, 2 hours. So again, our final answer is an amount of time, not an actual time. So 2 hours is our final answer for that. All right, now this one, what is 15 minutes after 11 a.m.? Keyword here is after, okay? So time is moving forward. We want to know how much time has passed 15 minutes after 11. Now this is very similar to what we did in the start of the lesson. So this one you should be able to just add on and see that it is 11:15 a.m. All right, so here's where we get to one that can be a little confusing and a lot of people make mistakes on. So they want to know again what time, so we need to give our answer as a time. It's 45 minutes after 11:30. So we're going to put our start time 11:30. So we have to go a total of 45 minutes. So we're going to jump to the next solid hour. So if you think what hour comes after 11:30, that would be 12. And now you have to keep in mind, so this is 30 minutes that have passed from 11:30 to 12.